I mentioned before, each person will be getting 15 minutes for the talk, and I'll be posting reminders as we get near that time in the chat. And then there will be 5 minutes for questions from the floor. So let's begin. Our first speaker is Shintaro Tajiri from Hokuriku University in Japan. I won't read everyone's full biographies, but he's the Assistant to the President for Information and Institutional Research and is also a Professor of the Department of Economics and Management at that university in Kanazawa. And he's here to talk to us today about the effectiveness of learning assistance on students' active learning in college STEAM courses. So thank you.
So thank you for introducing me, Professor Anderson. So hello, I'm Shintaro Tajiri from Japan. Before I start, I would like to thank the conference chair and managers for giving kind support until today. So it's a pleasure to be here online. So my presentation will follow this table of contents. So in the center of the photo, the guy wearing glasses is the undergraduate learning assistant. So seated are the students who are taking classes. And in the back of the photo, a standing guy who, with his hand in pockets, is me some years ago. So you can feel the atmosphere of a class with learning assistant, undergraduate learning assistants. So our research question is, what are the benefits of introducing undergraduate learning assistant program into the STEM classroom and other classrooms? To find out, we conducted a questionnaire survey at 3 universities in Japan. So first, introduction. So some of you might know what learning assistants are. So to borrow a definition from the Learning Assistant Alliance, which is led by the University of Colorado Boulder. So learning assistants are undergraduate students who facilitate discussions among groups of students in a variety of classroom settings that encourage active engagement. So in most cases, instructor and learning assistants will have preparation meeting before weekly classes, and they reflect together after the classes. So these are the member of Learning Assistants Alliance. So there are 2 universities in Japan, so, but most are located in United States. So some universities require the students who want to become learning assistants must complete a pedagogy course or their training programs. Also, the department that hires learning assistants may interview prospective students. So it is important to note that LA learning assistant is not the same as a teaching assistants who are graduate students. For this reason, LAs are often assigned to freshman seminars or introductory level STEAM courses. So in addition to learning assistants, they are also sometimes called student assistants, SA, or undergraduate TAs. So the history of LA in Japan started about 30 years ago. So in 1990, Keio University opened a new campus in the middle of nowhere, about 2 hours outside of Tokyo, to teach liberal arts, information science, and media arts. So the first in Japan, that new campus had hundreds of Unix workstations connected to the internet. As a matter of fact, I was one of the first students on that campus. So it was too far away from other Keio University's campuses for graduate students to become a TA in new campus. So the faculty at the new campus hired the same undergraduate students as their learning assistants. So, however, it also embodied the spirit of the founder of Keio University, so Yukichi Fukuzawa. So he is on the 10,000 yen bill, the highest amount bill in Japan. So Fukuzawa coined the phrase Hangaku Hankyo, which means half learning, half teaching, or learning while teaching, teaching while learning. For him, there is no division between teacher and student. There are only those who learn first teaches, those who want to learn later. This has been spirit of the school since its foundation. Teachers and students are half teaching and half learning. So one of my teachers at Keio University taught me more than 20 years ago that studying itself was only half of it. So teaching others what you have learned makes it perfect. So 10 years later, in 2000, the Japanese Ministry of Education published a report called Measures to Enhance Student Life at Universities. So this report mentioned about undergraduate students learning from each other. It was desirable that not only graduate students, but also senior undergraduate students should be actively given opportunities to be learning assistants in college education. So the reason why the Ministry of Education of Japan issued this statement was because of the paradigm shift in Japanese higher education at that time. That shift was called from teaching to learning. So in the 4-year university enrollment rate exceeded 50%. And according to Troll's definition, higher education in Japan has changed from mass education to universal education. So in the mass education era, university education was one-way communication between a teacher and hundreds of students in a classroom who only listened and took notes. But in the age of universal education, that is not going to work. So at the same time, the OECD required education that fosters competency or transferable skills. Those changes led to structural reform in the Japanese higher education. Teachers were asked to change their teaching style from one-way to active learning type. So therefore, traditional professors needed in-class facilitators or assistants. So this is higher education enrollment rate in Japan. So 4-year college enrollment rate has more than doubled in these 35 years. So the blue line is 4-year university enrollment rate. And recently, in 2020, the rate is more than 50%, 4.4%. So second, I will present related research. So this matrix was made by Professor State University Colorado Boulder. According to this, the benefits of learning assistant arise in four aspects. The benefits occur to the faculty member who use the LA. The benefits occur to the students who take course with the LA. The benefits occur to the LA themselves. And finally, the benefits occur to the department or university as a whole. In our study, we will focus on the number 2. In this table, the effects that occur to students who take course with LAs. So these are just a few of the studies about learning assistants. So Iwasaki's study showed that 89% of teachers who use LA are satisfied with them. So in Kawachi and Sugimori's study, they surveyed students who took class with LAs, so similar to our study. The results showed that more than half of the students answered that the LAs were helpful. So third is our research method. So we conducted a common student survey at 3 private universities in Japan to examine the difference between programs at different universities and the difference between STEAM courses and other courses. So the survey was conducted on 867 students who were taking courses with LAs. The targets were 5 courses from 3 universities, one of which was an information literacy, 3 of which were freshman seminar-like courses, and one of which was an art course, art expression. All of them are intended for freshman or sophomore students. So for the research result, in our research, we found that the activities of LA as provided by the students are almost we found the activities of learning assistants as perceived by the students are almost the same regardless of the university. Main role of the learning assistants at these 3 universities was to support and facilitate group activities. So these are advice for group discussions, for group activities, for group presentations, and answering students' questions. So however, the information literacy class at the University A tend to different. So advice for group presentation is low and advice for report writing is high. So in other words, depending on what the goal of the course is, the activities of learning assistants will change. So the effects of the learning assistants activities, the purpose of the studies were as follows. In this stacked bar chart, dark blue means agree a lot, light blue means agree a little, orange means don't agree much, red means don't agree at all. So the top 3 effects of University A and B are same. These are, it was number 4, it was easy to ask questions about things I didn't understand. So 14, it was good to have LA in this class. 3, participating in activities during class time became easier. So, but in University C, instead of number 3, 9, I felt it was important to work with other students ranked 3rd. So this may be because course at University C is art class. Also, the 3 lowest valued effects of LAs in University A and B are same. So at the University C, 13 was not low, and number 8, I was interested in this class, was the 3rd lowest. So it turns out that recognizing the positive effects of LA are different from students wanting to be learning assistants. So finally, discussions. The results of this survey are limited to these 3 universities, but we have shown from the survey that the effectiveness of the LA program is quite common regardless of the university or course contents. LA program works effectively in active learning in both introductory STEAM courses and freshman seminar courses. So, however, factors such as how to increase its effectiveness could not be clarified from our survey. So next, our research group is considering a national survey not only students in the class with LAs, but also the teachers in those classes who use LAs, and that LAs themselves and the director of each university's LA programs. So that's all I have to say. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. I'm sure everyone will show their appreciation in the chat. And can we open the floor to questions for 5 minutes, please? So if you could type questions in the chat, or alternatively, you can just say, I have a question, and then unmute briefly for this, whichever you prefer. I should say, while people are typing, if I could remind everyone to turn their cameras off while the speaker is talking. I forgot to do that myself for one moment at the start, so I understand that. So we've got a question from Dominic there. How do you motivate students to become learning assistants?
Oh. So usually I encourage the students whom I taught in my classes. So why don't you apply the LA programs? So because if you become LA, so there are many good benefits for you. And also most Japanese universities which has LA program, LA is pet job. So I tell the students it's good to get a job at the university.
Okay, thank you very much. I had a brief question. If anyone else has a question, please type it in the chat. But while that's happening, I just had a brief question. What you said about 50% of Japanese young people now going to university, that's something that will be familiar to those of us in the UK. Was that something that was pushed by the government, or is that something that just happened naturally? The fact that 50% are going?
I think it caused by the industrial changes. So because in Japan, there is no job for high school graduates.
I say yes. I think that's something we would recognise in many countries. So we've got another question there from Shitaro Naganuma. Sorry, from what year can students become a learning assistant?
Oh, it depends on universities. So for the earliest, students can be a learning assistant from freshman second semester. So, but in my university, sophomore is the fastest.
Okay, thank you very much. And I think we'll just have one more question before we move on. So that's from Gatica. Do you have any success in terms of students who are learning assistants then given an opportunity to be lecturer or professor at university?
So for example, my LA student told me that today your lecture is not good at this point, or your students enjoyed what you said in your class, or so it's kind of a mirror or a reflection of my self-reflection of my teaching style.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And again, I'm sure everyone will thank Shintaro for that very interesting talk. The fact that it's provoked a lot of questions shows that it's extremely interesting.